Chapter 4. "Good morning, sunshine," Audrey said, picking Caden up out of his crib. She rubbed the sleep from her eyes with one hand, holding Caden on her left hip. His wails lessened as he wriggled in her arms. Though she had assembled the crib, he had not enjoyed sleeping in it, and had been up longer than normal between feedings. "Let's get you fed, huh? It's only been..." She blinked at her watch, trying to make her tired eyes focus on the blurry image. 2 hours. All right, you must be hungry." She shuffled to the kitchen, flicking on the hall light as she went, and opened the fridge, grabbing a pre-made bottle. After shaking it up to mix the contents again, she popped it in the bottle warmer. "It'll be ready in a minute," she said to Caden. When the warmer dinged, she stuck the bottle in his mouth. Then she grabbed a K-cup pod from the cabinet she had stocked after her grocery run. With a quick flick, she loaded it in the new coffee maker and punched the button, watching Caden drain the bottle as the melodious dripping of coffee began. The drip slowed like the end to a beautiful symphony before stopping. Yawning, she grabbed the mug and stumbled into the living room to the couch. After placing the mug on the end table, she plopped down on the couch with Caden on her lap. As she reached for the aromatic liquid, a knock at the door sounded, and Audrey sighed and stared longingly at her drink. "Now who could that be?" she asked Caden, as she stood and crossed the carpeted floor. Though his blue eyes considered hers, he continued to suck on his bottle, oblivious to her question. She shifted him in her arms and opened the door. A petite blonde with her hair pulled back in a severe bun stood on the other side. Her gray suit rivaled many of Audrey's mothers. "Hello, I'm here for the nanny position." She held out a white sheet of paper, presumably her resume, with one hand. The other held a small black satchel. "Excuse me?" Audrey blinked at her. "The nanny position? My company said an order existed for nanny candidates to come to this address today at 8, so here I am." Audrey sighed. It had to be her mother. Even when she wasn't helping, she was meddling. Audrey doubtless couldn't afford a true nanny, but interviewing them would at least allow her to see what was out there. "My mother didn't tell me what time she set these up," she said, playing along. Her face flamed as she glanced at her checkered flannel pajama pants and t-shirt. "I'm sorry, I haven't even dressed." "That is fine," the woman said in perfectly proper English. "I assumed I would take care of the child in the morning while you got ready for work. May I come in?" "Of course, I'm so sorry. Please come inside." Audrey stepped back, allowing the polished woman to enter. Her heels sank into the carpet as she crossed the living room, and though she said nothing, her nose wrinkled slightly in displeasure. The modest room was neat, but it was no Fifth Avenue penthouse. The furniture from the Goodwill was clean, but mismatched. No television sat featured in the room, as Audrey hadn't found one at the Goodwill, and no art adorned the stark white walls. Audrey surveyed the room from the lens of the woman and swallowed her embarrassment. She must look atrocious and poor to this woman, who worked for wealthy families. The woman eyed each furniture piece, deciding on the beige recliner. She perched on the edge of it as if afraid of catching something if she sat all the way back, and set the satchel on her lap. Audrey stifled a grin at her obvious discomfort. If this woman avoided a used chair, how on earth would she deal with a baby who spat up multiple times a day? With perfectly manicured fingers, the woman opened the satchel and pulled out another white sheet and passed them both to Audrey, who took them before returning to the couch. "My name is Tess Fairchild. As you can see, I have impeccable references. I believe in a strict schedule as I find it helps the child adjust easier. I arrive at 7 to allow you to get ready for work, and I need to leave precisely at 6. Though I clean up after children, I do not do other housework." She folded her hands in her lap. "Now, do you have any questions for me?" So many questions spawned in Audrey's head. Where did she even begin? "I should have questions, shouldn't I?" Tessa's head tilted to the right, and her right eyebrow arched, but she said nothing, just stared with an unwavering gaze. Okay, would you play with Caden? The image of this poised and proper woman crawling on the floor with a baby was laughable. I will make sure he has adequate playtime. That hadn't been her question, but it was probably the best this woman would give. I guess that's it then, Audrey stood, signaling the end of the interview. Very well, I look forward to hearing from you. Tess smoothed her skirt as she rose from the chair and crossed the floor, stepping with her toes to keep her heels out of the carpet. As Audrey closed the door behind her, Caden finished the bottle. Hungry, were we? After setting Caden on the floor for his tummy time, Audrey rinsed the bottle in the kitchen sink and placed it in the drainer. On the way back, she spied her mug, still steaming on the end table. With a relieved sigh, she picked it up and managed one glorious sip before another knock sounded at the door. Audrey rolled her eyes, placed the mug back on the table, and opened the door again. A thick, elderly woman returned her gaze from the other side. Hello, I am Helga, and I am nanny. Her German accent made the words hard to understand. Of course you are, Audrey said under her breath. But Helga hadn't heard her as she had muscled her way past Audrey and into the living room. It is small, this is it? She asked. Audrey assumed she meant the house and nodded. Caden's room is down the hall. This is the living room, dining room, and kitchen space. Good. Easier to keep clean. I do only light housework. Here are my resume and references. 2 more white pieces of paper appeared under Audrey's nose. Similar to the previous woman, the references on the resume were impeccable, but impersonal. Helga rattled off her rules, never bothering to sit down. Instead, she paced like a predator stalking a prey. Her heavy footsteps sent shudders along Audrey's spine. She could not imagine Caden spending all day with this large, fear-invoking woman. He must have had the same idea, because as Helga leaned over him, he let out a loud wail and flailed his tiny fists. Audrey picked him up, and as soon as she could, she ended the interview. Okay, little one, let's change your diaper and lay you down for a nap. After grabbing a diaper and some wipes from the nearby stash, Audrey laid Caden on the carpet and unzipped his sleeper. Before she had gotten his legs out, another knock sounded. You've got to be kidding me, she whispered to Caden. Come on in, the door's unlocked. That's a good way to get robbed, Eliana, her older sister, said, poking her head in. Ellie! Eliana was 3 years older than Audrey, but the two had grown up close friends. After Eliana married and stopped coming around as often, Audrey was the only one for her mother to focus on. It was then Audrey became disillusioned with her parents' money and wanted a way out. Audrey finished the changing and hugged her sister. Sorry I didn't open the door for you. I figured it was another nanny. Yes, Mother told me she lined candidates up for you. The snort escaped Audrey's mouth before she could stop it. Yeah, candidates I can't afford. She refused to lend me money to help pay for one. Eliana crossed to the kitchen and placed her bag on the bar. With her dark hair, she was the antithesis to Audrey. Growing up, people had often asked if they were related. Audrey had taken after their mother's fair complexion, while Eliana had gotten their father's darker hair and skin. Hand me my nephew. Ugh, I don't think I can handle any more interviews, Audrey said as she handed the baby over. Want to stay and help? Eliana pursed her lips, pretending to think before smiling and shaking her head. Sure, why don't you go get dressed, and I'll get the next one. She pointed to the pajama pants and grinned. I'm surprised they haven't gone running after getting a look at you. Ha ha, Audrey said, but the smile remained on her lips. Though she hadn't missed her parents much, she had missed her sister. As she reached her room, she heard Eliana open the door and greet the next nanny hopeful. The blissful silence in the room comforted Audrey, and she took her time changing clothes, relishing the momentary break from nannies and Caden's crying. From her drawer, she pulled out a pair of jeans, tugging them up over hips still puffy with baby weight. An oversized gray t-shirt went next to cover the jeans. Then she brushed her teeth and ran a brush through her hair before exiting the sanctuary. "Thank you. We'll be in touch." Ellie's voice carried down the hall. "But I was told to meet with Miss Audrey McAllister," a woman protested. Audrey pressed herself against the wall so as not to draw attention. "Well, Audrey was a little busy, but I assure you I will relay your information." There was a forcefulness in Ellie's voice that Audrey remembered from childhood. She had always envied that fortitude because Ellie had been better about standing up for herself, even against their mother. When the front door closed, she pushed herself off the wall and continued down the carpeted hallway. "That was fast," she said as she rounded the corner. She wasn't the right one. Too stiff." "They've all been too stiff. Mother put them together, remember? And who could deign to deny Evelyn McAllister, right?" Ellie's chin tilted up in the air as she uttered the mocking statement. "What am I going to do, Ellie? I can't afford any of these women." Audrey picked up the mug of coffee, hoping to swallow a little of the comforting nectar, but the cold liquid crawled back up her throat. With a shake of her head, she popped the mug in the microwave to warm it again. Before it finished the minute reheat, another knock echoed through the room. A frustrated sigh escaped Audrey's throat. Would she ever be able to finish this cup of coffee? "Want me to send them all away?" "I'd love that, but then what do I do?" "Leave that to me." A playful smile curled Ellie's lips up at the corner, and she crossed to the door. "Sorry, the nanny position is filled. You can all go home." "What are you doing?" Audrey asked. "I told you I need someone to watch Caden." "Yes, but you have another option you haven't explored." Ellie's brown eyes twinkled with whatever secret she was toying with. Audrey was too tired to play this game. "What other option, Ellie?" The playful smile spread into a wide grin. "You have me." She held her hand up as Audrey's mouth opened. "Now wait, hear me out. Philip and I have no children yet. I live right outside town, and I want to get to know my nephew." Though Audrey liked the idea, she worried about infringing on her sister. "I can't pay you much, at least not at first. I need to purchase a car so I can return the rental, and it will be a bit before I get paid." "That's fine. Philip makes plenty of money. And I still have my trust fund. I don't need the money, and I want to help you out. I'm so tired of staying in the house, but a rich debutante with no skills isn't exactly in high demand these days." Audrey opened her mouth to agree, but Ellie cut her off. "Please, you know I'm good with kids. Let me try for a week, and if you hate me after that, you can call one of these cardboard cutouts." She flicked her hand at the stack of white papers. "Of course I'll let you watch him," Audrey replied. "I can't think of anyone I'd rather have. I'm just worried about Mother finding out." "You leave Mother to me if she finds out." Ellie flashed a conspiratorial wink, and Audrey smiled. Just like old times.